Hey guys, it's Carly. Welcome back to High Country Homesteading. Most of the garden is planted out, but I still had 5 of my biggest crops to do. And the first one we're going to do is corn. I have never grown corn before. This is my first time. I only know a little bit. I know that corn really loves nitrogen. I know it loves to be watered. And I know you need to plant a certain amount of it so that it can pollinate correctly. So this is the bed that I've picked for my corn. I've also planted some big sunflowers to go along with it. But I did 2 long rows. I don't know if that's the right thing. I don't know if it needs to be more of a square so that everything pollinates correctly and blows in the wind the right way. I don't know. So I'm just trying these 2 rows of corn in this bed that I made of built up compost this year, and we will see if it pollinates or not, but I am really excited to at least try. On the in-ground bed beside that is I did potatoes. So I just got some organic potatoes from my grocery store. I waited and sprouted them at home myself, so they have a few eyes on each of them, and these are gold potatoes. Those are my favorite type to eat, and I think they're really versatile. So I just scattered them evenly, and they're all about a foot apart is what I read up on, at least a foot apart. So I'm just doing the method where I am digging them down. I'm not doing the mounding up method, and I don't have straw, so I'm not putting straw over it, just regular mulch. But I'm basically just putting them about 4 to 6 inches down and make sure that they were a foot apart. I've heard that potatoes are one of the easiest things to grow, so I'm really excited to see what happens here. The third crop I planted on this day were artichokes. So these are my artichokes that I started from seed. In my opinion, they're looking pretty good. I don't exactly know how they're supposed to look, but I think that they've been thriving indoors. I've made sure to harden everything off really well, but I believe I have, how many in here? I think I had 7 or 8 artichokes that have lived. I up-potted them once. And they've grown very nicely, so I'm going to put those in one of my long beds. This is going to be next to the zucchini and some flowers, and I'm just scattering them evenly and planting them deeply in the ground. I'm using some just general biotone fertilizer in each hole and hoping that will give them a little boost of energy that they've been needing. After everything's been planted, I'm giving it a really good water. I made sure to soak these beds really, really well. We hadn't had much rain in the forecast, so I wanted to make sure that I did this by hand. This night was such a beautiful evening. The sky was all hazy and pastel colored, and it was gorgeous. But after I was done watering, I put some mulch on it. I'm using just pine mulch. Made sure there's not a lot of additives or weird thing in it, just basic pine mulch, no dyes or colors or anything like that. And I spread the mulch evenly on all 3 of the beds. So here's my tomato lineup. We have Amish paste, homestead, and beefsteak right here. And then all the way down there we have our tomatillos. And as you can see, these are still like 2, 3, even 4 to a pot. So we have quite a few. I'm gonna take the best looking ones. Like these are quite a bit smaller than some of its others. Let's see, some of them have like a stunted one in the middle of some 3 nice bigger ones. So I'm gonna see how many that I have of nice looking ones and see how they're going to fit along this trellis, trying to space them apart as well as possible. If you're in zone 6B like me, I would love to hear from you on this, because the previous 3 things that we planted were on May 17th is when I finally got them planted out. And these tomatoes and peppers that I'm going to be doing here weren't planted until the last day of May, so May 31st. So basically, I've been dying to plant out these tomatoes and peppers because they were way too big for keeping indoors. But the temperature lows at night kept falling below 50, and I knew I shouldn't plant them out until it was consistently 50 degrees and above at night. So I waited and waited, and finally Memorial Day weekend the temperatures were right, but then it just poured rain for 3 full days. So the 31st is the earliest I could do. So out of the best looking ones I have 5 of the Amish paste, I have 3 of the homestead tomato, and I have 4 of the beefsteak. So we're going to space these out, see how much space we have left, see if there's room for any of these smaller ones. But then I also want to fit in some tomatillos at the end, or see if my tomatillos need to go in a different space. So that's what we're going to do right now. So majority of these tomatoes, and I think honestly all of them, are tomatoes that I planted a month after my original tomatoes were. My original ones were just stunted like crazy. And these were planted a month afterward, and still I had to wait probably a full month after my last frost date in order to plant them. So next year I need to start way later. All right, so spacing those out on the trellis, that did pretty much exactly fit the amount I had. So if I want to use these small ones, I'll have to find another space, and I think I'm gonna have to find another space for these tomatillos. So once we figure out the pepper bed, we will figure out a place for those. But now it's time to plant, finally. So I was watching Jacques from Epic Gardening the other day, and I think his own channel is called Jacques in the Garden. But he was saying, and I already knew that you could plant tomatoes as deep as you need to, and they will grow roots all along their stem. But he said if you live in a colder climate, that since tomatoes like to be warm so much, it would be best for you to do a shallower trench and to plant the tomatoes sideways so that the sun can get to their stems and their roots a little easier and keep them warmer. So that's what I did here. I did a little combo, but for some of the longer ones, I made sure to go a little bit sideways with my stems so that the roots would grow a little shallower in the dirt. And then for shorter ones, I just went straight down. But since it's colder, the farther down you go, I thought that was a really good idea. So that's what I did here. And since the stems are so long, they still do stand up really nicely. And once I start tying them to the trellis, that won't be a problem at all. All right, here we are all planted. Something I found interesting though, I got all the way around this way to here and I can't see anything from right here, but I started pulling the soil back and there were, I think, baby termites everywhere. So that's freaking me out. They weren't over here and they weren't over here. They were just in this one exact spot. So I don't know what that means. Are they gonna eat my tomatoes or are they gonna eat my garden bed? I don't know, but I'm not sure how to treat that, so I'll probably have to look that up. So here is our pepper bed. All we have planted here are some beans that are gonna go up the trellis, but right here we have banana peppers. These are poblanos. We have 2 serranos, and then here we have our bell peppers. There's the lighter colored leaves are yellow bell peppers, and the darker color leaves are red bell peppers. So I think you can plant peppers a little bit closer together and then you can plant tomatoes. So I think we're gonna have space for everything in this bed, or at least for the best looking ones. I'm very proud of these peppers. These are probably the nicest looking things that I grew this year, and I had a lot of peppers. I did have a couple left over at the end of this that I'm gonna be giving away to neighbors. But my peppers looked healthy. I've been picking flower buds off of them for the last couple of weeks because they've been wanting to flower, but I hadn't planted them yet, and I knew I wanted to wait until I planted them to let them keep their flowers. So they've been really healthy and doing really well, and I'm really excited to note that down, that next year peppers do well, and I probably don't need to start as many as I did. So I'm excited to see how all of these turn out, but I'm pretty proud of them. All right, this is our pepper bed done. I do have sitting right there one more pot of banana peppers that has 2 nice looking plants in it. So I either have to gift that to somebody who wants it or find another place for it. But we've got our red and yellow bell peppers, serranos, poblanos, and then in the front are banana peppers. So now we just need to find a place for our tomatillos, and this will be all set. All right, our baby tomatillos are in. They're so little, but they are flowering, so that will be an experiment. I planted them pretty close together, so maybe I will get just some small tomatillos, but we'll see what happens. So all I have left to plant, I have some cosmos, I have some store-bought flowers, and then I just need to prune the bottoms of these tomatoes and trellis any that are tall enough. And I think that means we are done planting in the garden.